Hello all my fellow movie nerds, my name's Barry King and I am that weird movie nerd. The year is 2019. Justin Baldoni has released a romance drama about two sick kids and the whole world of 13-year-old girls goes crazy. And I am one of those 13-year-old girls because I'm a sucker for romance. Now, if you're coming here to get all the little fancy details of why this movie sucked and like what didn't work and all that, that's not what we're all about here. I've got a list here. I'm gonna rant about all the things I fucking loved about this movie because yeah, I actually love this movie. I cried 3 to 4 times in it. I'm sorry. So if you're here to get all the nitty-gritty details, that's not what this is about. I'm gonna confess my love for this movie. Now, this movie has a nice little cast that fills the hearts of those 13-year-old girls. We got Cole Sprouse, we got Haley Lou Richardson, we got Moises Arias, and we got Kimberly Herbert Gregory, the main little cast of this movie, and I've got to say I loved every single one of them. Especially Haley, she brought a lot to this role, and a lot more than Cole did, which was one of the main gripes everyone had with this movie, which I didn't really have, because I kind of thought it was just his character. That's the kind of person he is. He's this cocky, cringy, lined person, and I didn't mind that. I didn't really mind that, but there was especially towards the end some times where he delivered some cringy lines. I'm not sure if it was the script that gave him those lines or if it was the way he said those lines, but there was definitely some times where I cringed at the performance. And then you could say that he was a bit dry, there wasn't much dynamics to his character throughout the whole thing, which I get, but I really just took that as that being his character, his person, and I didn't really think too much about it because there are people who are actually like that. Within the first few minutes of Stella and Will meeting, Will stalks her online, and it's actually one of the better expositional dumps I've seen in a while, and that's because he was watching her YouTube channel where she started to explain her condition to the people on the YouTube channel, and those people were actually us that they were trying to spill this knowledge onto, and I really liked that. It wasn't just a doctor coming in or Stella talking to Will saying, "Hey, I've got all this stuff." It was a good smooth way of just inching it in there while giving some exposition as well for Stella and how she has her own YouTube channel, and then that's one of her goals in life is to tell people about how her condition. The dialogue was smooth. Some people thought the dialogue was cringy, but I actually kind of liked the dialogue. It kind of rolled off. It was, yeah, very smooth, especially with the laughters I felt. When we were first introduced to Stella's mother, who was in the diner, the cafeteria, whatever you want to call it, and I felt the laughs that they gave off were really genuine, especially when Stella spilt that drink. Such a genuine laugh, and I felt really connected and invested in that scene. I fell in love with her mother, just because of those laughs. And those laughs spread across the whole movie, and if you have a genuine laugh, I'm going to feel connected to that scene, to that character, because, you know, laugh is contagious, and if it's done right, if it sounds natural, then it's perfect. While we're on the topic of characters, I want to talk about Stella's sister, Abby. I instantly fell in love with her. Actually, it wasn't instantly, it was the time when she was singing to Stella. For some reason, that moment was so sincere, so sad, but also so filled with joy. I loved it, and I instantly fell in love with her character, and then we didn't see any more of her, which was okay because she died, and yeah. I want to talk about one thing amongst the many that I actually really enjoyed about this, and feel like if anybody else doesn't like this, they're crazy, and that's the soundtrack, or the score, or whatever you want to call it, the playlist of which they play. It was pondering, it was charming, it was pensive, it was a wondering score, and it just really brought the mood to this. It really brought the mood for me. Who's the composer for this? Brian Tyler and Brenton Vivian. Good job, guys. I really enjoyed the soundtrack. I'm not sure if it was you, because there was a lot of other artists mixed in there, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. How freaking dare you put Nova Amor in this movie, not once, but twice. Do you really want my heart to crack, to break, for me to burst out in tears? Because that's what I did. Nova Amor is such a talented artist in making such moving music, such loving music, such charming music, such sad music. I love it. So that's a big old brownie point on my part for including Nova Amor in this movie. If you don't know who Nova Amor is, he's a composer, musician? Whatever you want to call it. He makes music. Go check it out, all of his music. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, I love it. I also want to talk about the concept of this film. The concept of them being in a hospital, them being sick, and them having to get treatment every day and having to take pills and all that. I want to talk about the whole scenario because it's such an interesting scenario, because you have these characters, these three characters who are sick, and they're in this hospital and there's this environment, and then it all just feels like it's normal because of their performances of how they take it. Doctors come in and out while they're like drawing or on a phone call and all that, and it's just normal. There are these three rocks in this river, and it's just normal life for them. They don't dabble too much on the treatment side of all this. I mean, it is main parts of the story. If they ever have a doctor in the room, they're sort of just there and they don't care. And it really brings to life how this is some people's normal lives. The hospital room is their room for life, pretty much. It's so interesting to see that, and they've done that really well in this movie. They're just like three rocks, as I said, in a river, and everything's just running past them. They don't care. They're just going on with their lives like we do, except they're in a different environment to us, and they're just powering through that. It's great. Stella, the main character, I love how they gave her a motive besides just surviving, because that's what we're all doing in life anyways. We're all just trying to survive, trying to avoid that car that's coming towards us. But I especially love what they've done with Stella, and that is that she doesn't want to survive to survive. She wants to survive so that her parents don't have to put up with another death in the family. Otherwise it would tear them even further apart. That's beautiful. I'm not sure if that's part of the book because I haven't read the book and I'm not going to read the book, but it's great. I love how they included it in here. It's like just a little bit more stuff to give her more depth, and I love depth in characters. And speaking of depth, I love how they gave Barbara, the nurse, a bit more depth. How they put some backstory towards her, so she's just not this nurse who comes in who's for comedic relief or who's trying to put these kids in line. No, the reason she's trying to split these two kids up is because it's happened before. Two kids have fallen in love and she's like, it's young love, let's let it go. But then they die because they were in love and this thing happened that's happening in this movie, and it's a great backstory, it's a great motive for what she's doing. She's not some heartless monster, no, it's happened before. That's why she doesn't want it to happen again. I want to talk about a bit of the connection between Stella and Will. Obviously they had a huge connection because they were in love. I love how Will was like a metaphorical drowning person in this movie until Stella came along. He was there, he's like, we're dying anyways, let's just be rebellious and do stuff that we wouldn't do if we weren't dying. And then Stella comes along and she gives him a little bit of a floaty, and he's like, maybe I can survive this, until the end of the movie where they say, hey, you're gonna die, kid. But for the moment it's beautiful. It's beautiful because Stella is this person who is planted down by wanting to get through this treatment and trying to survive and taking the pills and doing that vibration vest and trying to get through it. And Will's just like, dude, I'm gonna die, why not just let me die? And then Stella comes along and she forces him to care. And then at the end of the movie, towards the end, the roles are really reversed. Will becomes this really non-rebellious, cautious character. And then Stella is like, hey, let's go skate on ice. We might fall in, but who cares? And the roles are reversed, and I love that. It's a good character development, good character arc, to see how Will has turned from this rebellious to non-rebellious, and then Stella from the non-rebellious to this rebellious, and it's cool to see how they twist over, and it's great how they influence each other. And on the topic of talking about that second act, that whole second act had me so tense, my butt cheeks were so clamped together, my fingers and toes were so curled up. I loved it. And then when they started getting so close and started to hold hands and all of that, I'm like, stop! And then they're about to kiss and I'm like, stop! You're gonna fucking die! Then there won't be any more puppy eyes to each other. I want to say one thing I didn't like about this movie, and that was the ending. I didn't like the ending. It was so abrupt. It's like, hey, he's gone now. Get on with your life. But I can see the metaphorical value in it. I can see that they didn't want to kill off another character. No, that's stupid. So instead, they had that symbolic thing of Will leaving Stella like they would in the future if they were to stay around, and I really like that. So I want to quickly dabble on why this movie works. Now, after watching this movie, I'm like, oh yeah, cool, there's gonna be a good rating on this one. It's gonna be maybe like 3.5, maybe 4 out of 5 stars across the board, and like everybody's gonna have good feelings about this. It was a good movie. It made me cry. It made me feel for these characters. But this is one of the most mixed movies I've ever seen. I went onto Letterboxd and I looked at the reviews, and it was the most mixed reviewed movie I've probably ever seen. And I love that because it goes to show that characters shine above everything, above story, above music, above set designs. Characters will always be the number one thing that we focus on in a movie, and it's the one thing that can divide an audience is good characters. And I feel like that's where this movie shines for a majority of the people who like it, is characters. Actually, for all the people who like it, because I didn't really notice the pacing or the bad story or the bad acting. I just noticed these beautiful characters who are falling in love, and I feel like that's what 90, 95, 99 actually percent of the people who are watching this who liked it fell in love with, is the characters. And if you have really good star characters and a really good relationship between these characters, that's gonna rise above everything else, and it won't matter if the story's crap or the pacing's crap. And that's where I found I love this movie, is the characters. And that blinded me for if the story was bad, if the pacing was bad. I'm sure if I was going to watch this movie again, I would notice a lot of that stuff. But if you've got good characters, it doesn't matter. People dislike it because of the story, but I don't give a shit. If characters are good, if I'm there and I'm having a good experience, if I feel moved by this movie, I'm gonna love it. If you give me a movie where I'm moved, I'm going to love it. And that's why I love this movie, and I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 stars, because I felt moved. I enjoyed watching it. I wanted more of it. I enjoyed every single second of it, and I felt tense for these characters who were dying, and I didn't want them to die, but they were gonna die, and then they just... Whew, good movie. Good movie. Good movie. If you don't think so, if you thought that this was the worst movie ever made, comment it below. Tell me what I said wrong. Tell me why this movie sucks. Tell me why you love this movie. Tell me something that I didn't say in this video, and I will banter with you down there in the comments. If you have a movie you want me to watch that you think I'd like, or you want me to review, comment it below as well. I'll get around to watching it after I watch the millions and billions and trillions of movies I've got in my watch list already. But alas, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next review.